Good evening. We are picking up today where we left off on Friday. We are starting a tiny bit late. There was a minor technical hiccup before stream started. This gives off the vibe of a thing that will redirect lasers. Like specifically, I feel that like a laser going in the top would come out the side and vice versa. Ow, my bones. Mistakes were made. Alright, I cannot pay for that in installments. One free ability point, nice. Okay, can I accomplish anything here without dying in the process? Looking like the answer is no, unless I open that door with energy that I don't currently have. Speaking of not currently having things, I need to go get that ability point back. That was almost disastrous. Almost disastrous. Well, as much as I would like it to be otherwise, I don't have 4 energy. So I need to find another one. That said, looks like all this stuff over here is open to me. That is an extra life orb. It'd be nice to get that. I choose to believe that it going Soul Link is ready there was a gentle reminder to save my game. I should look at my options. Energy markers would be useful right about now, but I don't have anywhere near enough points for that. Yet. Triple jump would be really nice. And especially on hard mode, so with this. Though I am kind of feeling the lack of damage output, so maybe this is for the best. Yeah, I think I'll get that one. Oh, rude. Extra rude. I'm just pathing things out, that's all. I see a bunch of bats up there. They are of minor concern. I overestimated myself. I believe that's a shortcut to earlier in the level. So having that open is just a nice thing to have done for myself. Oh no, he's hurt. Oh no, I'm about to be hurt. Oh, Deborah Weasel, thank you so much for the sub. I appreciate it. In celebration, I will save the life of this thing. And then yell at it to assert dominance. Ori brought kindness and hope to his heart. You started playing this game? Yeah, no, this game's so good. You have recovered the water vein. This ancient gemstone will grant you entrance to the Jinso tree. Remember, the element of waters rests high atop the Jinso tree. We shall bring back the waters. Let us return immediately. You're not far in? It's not a race, don't worry. Take it at your own pace. Have fun. It sounded kind of judgmental, but like I'm more like being encouraging. Like, take it at your pace. It's a Metroidvania. Like, exploring them is what makes them fun. I kind of want the thing that's down there. Mistakes were made. I shall have to come back later after I've unmurked the water. Speaking of mistakes... I'm in danger. But that's okay. Well, that was rude. Like, I got caught. I had to respect it. I had a save point right there, so it wasn't a big deal. But that was still rude. Okay, there's a life crystal up there. Ow. I overestimated my ability to not get hit by that. I'm just de-rusting. That's my excuse. Yes, the movement in this game is incredibly smooth. I really like it. Like, having recently played Hollow Knight, it's not exactly the same as Hollow Knight, but like, it's very evocative of like how responsive Hollow Knight's movement is. Also, ow, that was like all of my health. Meaningfully speaking. I technically could, there we go. I technically could just, go to the next dungeon. And by next dungeon, I mean first dungeon. But I kind of want to get lost along the way just a little bit first. Though I am seeing a bunch of gates that like require 4 energy, so maybe I should go there and hope to find 1 more energy. Also, yeah, like, I also agree that like, kind of like expanding on that thought that like movement makes a game good. Even if it's not like the most extravagant part of a game, the more often you do something in a game, like the slicker or like the more fun you can make it, the better. And for most games, you're going to be moving around a lot, so having good movement just makes the entire game feel good. Here, have this. The Jinso tree. The waters of Nibel once flowed through this very tree. Now it's all rotten and dried up inside. We shall restore the flow. The Jinso tree's heart we must find. Now you're thinking with portals. Think. I do not seem able to kill this thing. Regrettable. But I can work around that. She says and then immediately kills herself. I tried to back out, but my body didn't go where my heart demanded. Also, of note, I'm pretty sure I'm not guaranteed to have the air dash here. Or, it's not that I'm not supposed to, it's that, it's probably designed so that it's beatable without it. So I should probably keep that in mind when deciding where to go. I'll just try this again. Where might this go? Not saying no to those. Not by any stretch. I do think it's kind of cool the way that they're, the way that they light up when you get near them. So if both sides are on screen, you don't actually have to see, you don't have to, what's the word? You don't have to jump through it to figure out where it's going to go. I think that's nice. I feel like I've over-engineered this. But if it works, it works. Oh, this feels like a fight. This looks like a fight. This is a fight. Oh, you know what these things look like? They remind me of Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure. Like with the body that kind of like opens up like the whole length. That's what it reminded me of. Oh wait, there was a keystone down there. I want that. And that. And that. Ow. And that. Mistakes were made. But it's okay. I need all 4 keystones. I call shenanigans on that one. I hit a log, not a spike. This is fine, however. That one was on me, I panicked. Relevant, and another thing that I've actually praised games for before is getting you right back into the action if you hit a failure state. Like, I don't like games that waste a bunch of time. I don't like games that waste a bunch of time mocking the player. Cries of dismay I hear deep inside this ancestral tree. Reem was agile, he dashed through the air. Listen to his voice, the wisdom he shared. But I've already got air dash. Oh, bash. Hold Y near lanterns or enemy projectiles, which for me is going to be triangle. I'm using a PlayStation controller. Then aim in the direction you'd like to leap. Projectiles will be redirected in the opposite direction. Okay, this is... I'm remembering now how this works. This is actually super fun. Alright. Like that, yes. Like, between this and, like, pogoing in Hollow Knight, I always enjoy a game where, like, you can use your enemies' abilities sort of against them almost. Or, like, to your own benefit. Rather than merely having to work around them. It makes the game feel a lot more dynamic rather than just like a rehearsed routine. And that is an energy cell, I want one of those. Almost. There we go. And with that, I can get through energy cell doors that cost 4 energy. I should save my game. I always love getting to the point with a new movement system where I start to look really slick while doing it. It helps that this one's actually very intuitive. Mistakes were made. Alright, I'm gonna hang out up here. And it's gonna make my life easier. The heart of the Jinso tree once kept the element of water safe, but now it's corrupted, all foul and decayed. We have to help it, cure it, and cleanse all the blight by removing the corruption on both of the sides. Almost. There we go. One more, please. Shooting a bullet and then, like, running up to it, catching up to it, and then jumping off of it is like some anime parody stuff. Ow, rude. Oh, I can't. Oh wait, I can. I just have to do it here first. I can really scout the whole place out first. I have just noticed that my health is low. And then I dodged into a shot. Like, the thought passed through my mind right before the bullet did. I think what I'll do this time is I'll get the first one, jump back down, save, and then jump back up. Oh, shoot. Luckily, I just saved my game. Double luckily, I just saved my game. It's like that's one way to go back to the save point with full health. That's probably the way you're meant to do this. Lock that one in. Apparently, I left a pickup over here. Yes, I did. Now we can restore the elemental waters. With this one rekindled, there's 2 more to go. We did it! Mistakes have been made. Oh, there was a thing there. Oh, Jigstraw, welcome. You're here just in time. I'm missing those ability cells and it's bothering me, but I'll live. I did it! Now to take a celebratory nap. I finished my nap. I still adore the art style and aesthetic of this game, and oh no. That is not friend-shaped. Cat, I think it sees me. It was the light that she hated, the light of our kind. But Ori's kindness would once again save my child. And yeah, the guy that I saved earlier has repaid the favor. And all the water that was once stagnant is now pure. Ori, I thought I'd lost you to Kuro's Talons of Hate, but it was Gumo who saved you, delivering us from an uncertain fate. But look here, with the Chinso tree restored, Nivell's waters are clear. But there's no time to lose, we must make haste. The element of winds next, resting deep within the forlorn ruins. Inside the misty woods, there's a key that will open their gates. Also, yeah, if I were to pick like a non-magical bird to be, I would definitely want to be an owl. I'm gonna put this nerd in the water. I just got an achievement for that, actually. Nope, nope, get back here. You've avoided a bath this day. That was on me, I didn't do the inputs right. Oh well. You wanna be a cassowary? They're the ones that kick things to death, right? Which is actually a surprising number of birds, now that I think about it. Secretary birds, that's not a subgroup that I'm familiar with. Cassowary are basically dinosaurs. Very nice. Oh. I definitely want that. Oh. That just straight up killed me. Okay. Based off on snakes, that sounds about right, yeah. You know, if I was gonna be an owl, first of all, they're very pretty birds, so like, people like to take care of them. They are more or less dead silent in flight, so you have an incredibly easy time hunting. Their eyes are so ridiculously good that as long as it's not pitch black, you could be like standing at like a pitcher's diamond and like looking at somebody. But farther than that, you could be like on one end of like a residential block and like looking at somebody else at the other end of a block holding up a book, and you could like read the words on the page in anything other than like pitch blackness. The vision is insane on owls. And I got eaten. Owls do that too. I do find it kind of interesting that aside from that one, like, tennis balls thing, the first dungeon didn't really have, like, a boss fight. It was more like a platforming challenge. Like, can you move quickly and accurately enough under pressure? I'll try not to get caught a second time. Like that, yes. Luckily, I had just saved my game. The stuff that they leave on the ground is throwing me off. Did I say leaving me off? I meant throwing me off. Oh, I don't think I can bounce off those projectiles. Okay, nothing else here. I think the door to leave required 2 keystones. I should refill my breath. And hope that I don't get munched on along the way. Which could happen. I think I saw the map stone over here. Yes, I did. It was not, in fact, the jump button to put the thing into the thing. There's a rainbow here I just noticed. It's nice. I like it. Okay, that gets me to where I've been before. That is a new ability. I want that. I like abilities. They make me stronger. That was not as well jumpable as I thought it was going to be. There's also a thing down here I should probably try to get. Mistakes are made. Can I blast this? No, I cannot. Problem for later. Elo was the stoutest of all of the spirits, the most powerful ever seen. Now here he rests, turned into an ancestral tree. And now I am the most powerful. Quake in fear, bowed before me. Press A to lift into the air, then just press down. Does that take energy? No, it does not. Awesome. Oh, well, that thing's dead. How do I leave without it? Oh, there we go. Okay. I remember seeing a switch like that earlier, I just don't remember where it was, but I'm sure that I'll find it. I wanna play, come out. Good enough. Or not? It's one of the things I liked in Monster Sanctuary, being able to mark the map. I think I have that game. Oh, hey there. So now I can kill those things without helping the environment. Yeah, Monster Sanctuary is the one where one of the starting monsters is like a bird, right? And there's a whole subset of like capturable monsters that are basically just like monks that punch things. If so, I think I've actually played that one. Not all the way through, but I have played it. I could totally do it on stream at some point. Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm pretty sure I got that game, actually. Also, speaking of getting things, I kind of really want these. So I guess I'll save up points for those. Ow. Also, right, I should be using the D-pad. I keep forgetting. There we go. I keep thinking that I'm tankier than I am, but I'm not. Okay, that one was just mean. I also don't actually want to end up down there. If memory serves, I think it was somewhere down here. I think it might have been like in this area that there was a thing that I could probably open up with Saw. Something like that. Anyway. There we go. Well, that worked out in my favor. And then there's a thing down here, so... Mistakes were made. I'm so used to the Hollow Knight inputs. You might see me doing them on the input display. Like in Hollow Knight, the soft equivalent is like that. Or like that. Though I guess actually the, I guess the joystick input is better for stuff like this. Rude. Okay, now I'm mixing up games. Whoops. Alright, one thing at a time. Oh, there is a crystal down there, but I'm pretty sure I can't get back up if I go down there. I also totally could leave these pickups for later, but I want them now. There we go. Now I just have to not die along the way to the well. Which shouldn't be too difficult because there are only basic enemies along the way. There we go. And I want to end up all the way over there, which means I probably want to be over here. Oh. I don't want to zoom out that much. I'm looking on the map for any potential power-ups that I might not have already grabbed. Like this one right here. I want that. I think this is the right wall for that one. Yes, it is. Alright, we're going to take a 5-minute break here. Please use this time to refill your beverage, go to the bathroom. Anything that would take you about 5 minutes. I will see you shortly. I return. And yes, this is out the right spot. Let's just get our health back. Give ourselves every advantage. The Lost Grove. The main thing that's lost there is your life. Not a huge window of not a huge window of opportunity to destroy that thing. Or not destroy, but not get caught by it. For some reason, this game just reminded me of Sekiro. I could not tell you why. Just something about the sequence of motion that I just did. Reminded me of Sekiro. Get dunked on, bird nerd. Oh, that looks like Mother. Light and dark, in innocence born. And though she was lightless, a friendship still formed. Is Sekiro running better than Elden Ring? I think it does. I also think that the gameplay of Sekiro is way better. But the bond that was made, the main difference being that in Sekiro, you are Sekiro, you don't get to be somebody other than Sekiro, whereas in Elden Ring, you can choose whatever you want to do. And by whatever you want to do, I mostly mean like Moonveil. Would soon be dissolved. No, don't go play with those other color children. Bad child. A soul could cast our light. Even in the dark she would see. She lived deep in this grove, now she rests here in peace. You gained Light Burst. To use this ability, press or hold left bumper in order to cast a Light Burst. If memory serves, this whole area was added in the Definitive Edition. and was not in the original release. Oh, there we go. I've been wondering how to light those. And now I'm out of energy. Whoops. Oh hey, energy. Om nom nom, let's go. Yeah, if memory serves, when I played Elden Ring, I was mostly a intelligence caster. So like I had Moonveil, I had like Glintstone Sorcery. It's been a while. I do know that in the end, though, I actually re-specialized to a Faith caster. Because Faith got a lot of attention in Elden Ring. Oh, rude. But yeah, poor Faith, it hadn't been good since Demon's Souls. Usable, absolutely, but like, good? Not really. For this character was Dexterity Arcane. That's also very good. Arcane's a bit of a weird stat, but it very much rewards people who invest in it. In fact, last I checked, I think Arcane was actually like the best stat. Like, it was the meta stat. Oh. I forgot that was there. Yeah, like, especially where so many late game enemies in Elden Ring are just like massive HP pools. Doing percentile damage was just very, very good. Thank you. And it's locked in because I saved. And we don't get got by that. Wait, no, that's not the dash button. This is why AAA developers think that 6 buttons is already too many. Yeah, true. Most of the time, people would be using katanas instead of daggers. Hey, that just killed that thing. Have I recently told the story of how I gaslit my first boyfriend into thinking that the singular form of katanas was katanas? It's not a very in-depth story, but I actually did that at one point. Just every time the word katana came up in conversation, I said katanas. And whenever he said katana, I would correct him to katanas. And this went on for like 2 years until, like, in front of somebody else, he said katanas, singular. And they were like, what are you talking about? Why are you saying it like that? And he was like, isn't that what it is? And they were like, no. and I was laughing. Why though? Because I'm like this. I'm just like this. Oh, hey. I bet I can get this. Oh, easily, yes. Full ability cells are very nice to come by. One more and I can charge dash enemies. Conveniently timed level up, we take those. In fact, we take that too. Something has to die, which means I probably need this. There we go. And yoink. It is definitely very worth coming down here. And there is still more to find. Oh, I think I want to bait an enemy onto this to, get it to move. I think that's correct. Or maybe I just... oh. Maybe I just perish. No, I feel like I want the big thing here. Or the frog can just kill it. And then the frogs can just kill me. Oh my gosh. I was about to say I've actually seen that movie, but I actually haven't. Which is probably for the best. Because from what I hear, it wasn't very good. Now, is there a way that I can get down here and not have that thing get caught immediately? Oh wait, no, I don't have to weigh it down. I just have to chuck a thing, like this. Or like this. There we go. You don't need to travel. You simply delegate the work to a bullet. I do think it's kind of cool that I can just dunk the crows into the thorns to kill them very quickly. Although now it's kind of like, how do I kill the things up there? I guess like this. I don't think I have enough energy for that. So I suppose I could just leave. Luckily, energy actually does grow on trees. Oh, shoot. Frick. Well, that was unfortunate. You think the last movie you went to see was the Dark Tower adaptation? I think I've read the first Dark Tower book, and none beyond that. Just because the first one was the only one available at the library that I went to at the time. It's like, this seems interesting. There is no more of it. Okay. Oh. There's so much to keep track of at once in here. And I can barely keep track of one thing on a good day. But yeah, like, the scene where, the gunslinger, like, becomes an adult by, like, sacrificing his, like, familiar. So that he can, like, I think it was save his mother from a guy who was gonna do bad things to her. That has... The exact context is not stuck with me, but, like, the vibes of that scene very much have. I really feel like what I'm doing is not the most efficient way to do this, but if it works, it works. Shawshank I haven't read, Green Mile I have. Green Mile was also very good. Oh, I lack energy. That is a problem. But this place is very nice looking, so it's okay. Use bash on light bursts. Oh! I did not realize that I could bash my own light bursts. Okay, hold on. Okay, that changes things. That changes things just a little bit. I had completely forgotten that interaction. Can I leave a light burst here? No, I cannot. Oh, I bet what I do is this. I probably don't go up there myself. Yeah. Plus one ability cell, heck yeah. And on the map I see something down here that I kind of want to try and check out. Mistakes were made. Can I go down like this? No, I cannot. Alright. Perhaps we'll try that again later, when we have more upgrades. And I do believe that this is where Nala grew up. So this would make this person my adoptive grandfather. Yeah, it is like the only book that like I've heard controversies about, let alone controversies at that level. I also like how he doesn't defend it. When asked about it, he just went, "Yeah, I was on so many drugs when I wrote that." Oh, it mirrors how we lost Nala. Oh, that's sad. After his passing, she left. And never returned. Though they are gone from our forest, there's no time to grieve. Remember those who have passed, and they will forever live on. Yeah, like I say, I'm pretty sure that this whole section was added in the definitive edition and wasn't in the original release. Oh, this place is pretty though. I like it here. Where was it that where was it that Ori grew up in here? Wasn't too far from here. I want to say that that was like... I genuinely feel bad for having forgotten. I feel like that was here. I'm gonna try and go back. I feel like this wasn't where Ori grew up. He was up top. Like, surely I've got the tools to get back now. Another energy door there, but I can't do that twice in a row. That was rude, I got caught. Oh well. I might have got caught, but I'll get back. I'm a Pox, we always get back. Silly me. Now I can't afford the energy to get in. Whoopsie. Being able to ping off my own energy like that, though, is very nice. It's almost, not quite, flight. like in a game like this, that's all you really need. I need to be careful, because in hard mode, I'm one hit from death. I am now safe. I can make it so I can breathe underwater, get a triple jump. I like both of these. I want the triple jump, I want the ultra defense. I think it's probably worth my time to just max out this tree before going down the others. Like, combat is nice, but you definitely get way more out of exploration skills in this game. That's what I feel, at least. You know what? The wall thing that's following me around, whose name I forget, reminds me a little bit of like the companion thing from Nightcaster, an original Xbox game. It's like a sapient ball of light that like guides you on your quest. Oh, almost. I almost forgot. Now, I just need to find an energy. Hey, an energy. I was just gonna say, I just need to find an energy cell, or like one thing of energy. Then I can save my game and lock in what I've got so far. And then I found a whole expansion. And then I got, as one does. We have another well up here. There's a thing down there that I couldn't get before that I can now, so I may as well grab that. Then I guess there's all the stuff down there that I could get too. I feel like I've entirely forgotten, like, what my original goal was. But it's not like I'm being unproductive, so it's fine. And then she died. It's okay though, these things happen, we shake them off. Oh, the animation for this stomp is really pretty too, I like that. I'm a sucker for things like spinning and trailing. There's something up here. And I don't actually need help from an enemy, but it would be nice if I could get it. Excellent lifestyle. We don't want to get squished. I would save my game, but I need all 4 energy. Which lets me do that. Another game that I reminded myself of while playing this one is a game called Trine. Just moving the boxes and such around. It's like, hold on a second. I've been here before. And very lucrative chamber to have opened up, heck yeah. Definitely want to save that. I need to sneeze. Pardon me. No, you. I appear to have turned off the violence. Oh, and I could have used this to redirect the shot if I hadn't done that on my own. Nice. It's cool that there are multiple ways to approach things. Regrettably, I'm pretty sure that in this game you can't just warp wherever you want. I've been spoiled by certain randomizers on that front. But I think it was very worth coming down here. How do I feel about ARPGs? It depends on a few things. Like, if my friends are playing them, then I'll enjoy them a lot more. It also depends on, like, what the gameplay is like, what the aesthetic is like, how much effort it takes to get, like, a proper min-max set. One that I played a bit of and had a lot of fun doing so was Last Epoch. But then all my friends stopped playing it, and also I couldn't find items that actually, like, favored my intended playstyle. So I just ended up, like, losing because my numbers weren't big enough and I didn't want to play the game a different way. So I fell off of that one just a little bit. Yeah, I remember playing a little bit of Torchlight and not liking it, and then actually installing a mod, which, like, rebalanced everything. But I think that that mod was more intended for people who were more familiar with the game. Not that it was, like, too difficult or anything, it's just like, you know what, this is all a bit overwhelming. But yeah, for me, it's, the big thing is, like, for a game like that, in a game like that, I'm going to want to play as, like, a necromancer. Like, a proper necromancer with, like, a horde of undead, not like not a quote-unquote necromancer where I'm actually, like, a warlock shooting eldritch blasts. Yeah, like, I'm not saying that Torchlight was bad, I'm just saying, like, it ended up not clicking with me in the way that I was hoping it would. Though, you know, again, perhaps I might revisit it. Nothing is stopping me. I think the developers of Torchlight actually went on to make another ARPG, and they, like, kept the pet system. Although I think that those games that they made were, like, a lot more for children than they were for adults, if memory serves. I might be entirely wrong. They, like, got into the edutainment business, I think. Half-cost Soul Link, very nice. And then Triple Jump I'm really looking forward to. Surprisingly, not as much as the Air Dash, but I'm still looking forward to it. More mobility is always fun, and then double defense will, I think, go a long way, given that I'm taking twice as much damage from most things. Mistakes were made. An ARPG that I had as a kid and never actually finished because when I was a kid I was too dumb to figure out how was Darkstone. Like, I think that was the first game I ever played that had, like, a hunger meter, and I just could not wrap my head around needing to, like, fill my bags with food before leaving town. So I kept starving to death in dungeons. Oh, very nice. I actually ended up getting another copy of Darkstone on GOG, but I never made time to play it. Though I will say that's one of the nice things about I will say that's one of the nicer things about streaming is like it's a great excuse to like make time to play things. I can be like, oh, here's this game that like I've never finished. I'll just do it in front of people so that they'll hold me accountable. Or rather, I will hold myself accountable by imagining that they're holding me accountable. Good thing I saved my game right there, huh? Oh, hey there, Kuro. Still hunting the light, blinded by hate. Your introduction to the genre was Titan Quest. I've heard that name, I don't think I've ever played it myself. Ooh, Life. I like Life. Yay, Life. They let you change the game speed and the settings on the fly, mostly mythology based. That's kind of giving me vibes a little bit of Age of Mythology. Which is a RTS very much like Age of Empires, except it's all fantasy instead. And it also had, every time you advanced in age, you would choose a new god to worship, and then they would grant you like a unique god power that you could use one or more times per game, but only that many times. Like, if you started out worshipping Zeus, he would give you a single use of his Thunderbolt, where you could just target any enemy unit and instantly kill them. Or like if you worshipped Circe as like a lesser god, I believe she was, she would give you a power that let you like target a large area and turn every enemy in that area into goats, I believe it was. Or pigs. Pigs would make more sense, it's Circe. I think turning everything into goats was a cheat code. Oh, more life, nice. And that looks like an ability cell that I could get if I went up above, so let's go up above. Sadly, I never actually got any good at real-time strategy games. I am substantially better at, I'm substantially better at games where you control one character than I am at games where you control, like, hundreds at a time. Now, how might I get through there? Surely there's a thing somewhere. somewhere near even. Like here even. Yep, Age of Mythology did the same thing. You would like... There were, I think in the base game, there were Greek, Egyptian, and Norse pantheons. And then the expansion pack added Atlantean, which basically just meant Greek again. But the Titans this time. I remember really enjoying playing as Cronus. Because Cronus had an ability that let you actually relocate buildings on the map. By like retconning time so that you would actually build it somewhere else all along. The animation was really cool, like it would deassemble the building brick by brick and then reassemble it somewhere else at the same time. An enemy could interrupt the process by destroying either partially complete building. I've only ever played one Army Men game, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't an RTS. It was like a third-person shooter, I believe. I think it was called Sarge's Heroes. The only thing I really meaningfully remember from that game was that a bunch of enemies were like capturing the Green Armor Men and smelting them down into spiders. And it's like, wow, that's kind of messed up. I like that. Can I do that? But I couldn't actually figure out how to beat that game or make any progress in it. Because again, not a very bright child, ultimately. Oh, I vaguely remember this place. I'm definitely enjoying the advantages of having all this extra life. It definitely wasn't a PlayStation 2 game because I didn't have a PlayStation 2. I had a PlayStation 1. There's life up there. And there's life down here. Awesome. I feel like I've literally like doubled or tripled my life in the span of today's stream. I'm not complaining. It's a very nice thing to have done for myself. I'd say it was my birthday gift to me, but it's not actually my birthday. Happy birthday? No, it's not my birthday. Save your birthday well wishes for people who deserve them. Lots of ability cells. And very close to get... Close? What? Am I talking with a lisp now? Very close to getting a 5th. And triple jump and ultra defense on the horizon. The very near horizon. I think for the most part, I'm kind of as mobile as I'm going to be now. There's like a couple of more skills that I think I can get at this point. How might one get down there? Oh, there we go. Can I get up there? No, I can't. It looked gettable, but it was not gettable. This also looks pretty gettable. Not me forgetting that I can triple jump immediately after I unlock it. Not me getting got immediately. Yeah, I think I'll save my game right here. And I think that this is a really good place to call it for the night. We kind of forgot all about making progress, but we got a lot of stuff, so I can't complain. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it each and every time. Next scheduled stream is going to be on Wednesday. The game is going to be Paper Mario 64 Randomizer. The next time I'm playing this game in particular is going to be on Friday. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful night, and I hope to see you again. Good night.